It's the Best Damn Sports Show podcast with your hosts, Jason Cahill and Bernie Kim.
Welcome to the Best Damn Sports Show podcast. I am Jason Cahill.
I'm Bernie.
Wow, somber today.
Yeah, well, we'll get to why I'm a little upset right
Bernie,
now.
You're mad at me.
Yes.
We had our auction last night, our fantasy football auction last night. I sent out the recap today with the power rankings for all the teams. Bernie, not very pleased with the grade I gave him. But we can talk about that in a bit.
We'll get there.
But I don't want it to affect the podcast.
It won't affect I'm sorry. I'm Bernie.
All right. I just want you to put it aside, and we'll get back to you in a bit.
We're back.
Hey, we had a good week this week. We had a few Olympians here. We saw some gold medals. Jason Lesak and Heather Mitz.
The lovely Heather Mitz.
Yeah, she is lovely. She's a good friend of the show. We had Joel McHale on.
They're very funny.
We had another great guest, Jerry O'Connell. He hasn't been here in a while. He always brings it, though, when he comes. He was a great guest. And Ric Flair.
Woo! Woo! Woo!
Ric Flair was here. So overall, pretty good week.
Solid.
Yeah, and before we get to the guests and talking about behind the scenes with some of these guys, I want Bernie, I want you to tell us what happened this week. You were supposed to go bowling with Gary Payton.
So,
what happened with that?
For those avid listeners of the podcast, know that Gary bowls a lot, and we had spoken to him a few weeks ago about it. And so every time he comes and guest hosts on the show, I talk to him. We say, "Hey, let's go bowling next time." And then finally, this week on Tuesday, after the show, I said, "Hey, you want to go bowling tonight?" He said, "Yeah, just give me a call." Got his number, gave him a call.
That was a good GP impression, by the way.
So I gave him a call. He said, "Let's go to this bowling alley. Meet me there 9:30. Let's do it." He's like, "Cool." I call him. I said, "All right, we're here on lanes 1 and 2." He said, "Okay." 30 minutes pass. He gives me a text, and he says, "Still waiting on my ride." I said, "Sure." Another 20 minutes pass. I call him up, and I go, "What's going on?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm on my way. It's this so-and-so bowling alley, right?" I said, Yep. He goes, "I'm on my way." He's like, "Well, what time's it close?" I say, "Well, in about 30 minutes."
By the way, anytime somebody says, "What time's it close?" that's
that was a bad sign.
Yeah.
So he said, "All right, cool, I'm on my way." And then with about 15 minutes to close, he gives me a text, and he says, "Yeah, I'm not going to make it."
Wow,
Not going to make it. I got big time.
You got stood up by GP.
I did. We were supposed to bowl. I think he was afraid. He knows that I can bring it.
By the way, I'm going to guess he was not afraid.
Okay.
I think not afraid. I think just busy doing other things.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose, but he big time me, and now I will take it out on him next time we bowl, and I'm not going to pull out.
How good are you?
In season?
Whoa. What does that mean?
When I say in season, I mean when I've been bowling for a consistent amount of time, 170s.
That's
average 170s.
That's pretty good.
My high is 247.
Not knowing a lot about bowling, I think though that when someone says they're good, I expect the 200 plus. That's what I expect.
Well, I'm not great. I'm not going to say I'm great. 170, I'm happy with that. Up 200 plus. That's you need to average at 200 to be a professional bowler. If you average 200 a game, you are a professional.
How many times have you bowled in excess of 200?
I can't. More times than I can remember.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so you're pretty good.
Solid.
But GP is good as well.
He's good. He just started. Well, if you remember the first time he said he went bowl, or the first time we asked him what his average was, he said 150.
He did, yeah.
And then I kind of made fun of him a little, and so every other time we asked him, his average has already crept up to 170.
Well, maybe he's gotten a little bit better.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't believe him.
You got stood up by GP.
I did.
Well, what did he say when he saw you the next day?
I said, "Oh, way to show up, buddy. I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad you showed up for work." And he said, "Oh, my bad. Next time we'll go, I'll pay." Yeah, you know what? We'll see.
Wow.
We'll see.
All right. Well, we'll have to get him back on the podcast and explain himself.
I hope so.
I hope you win, Bernie.
Thank
I hope you win. I want to say I'd pick you in that match.
If you want to bet on Gary, fine. I'll take myself against Gary.
Well, I'd be betting on a future Hall of Famer, professional athlete. Against no disrespect, Bernie.
Okay.
I know you're a good athlete. I know you're a fast runner. I've never seen you bowl though.
I have tape of it downstairs if you want to see it.
I'm going to take a look at it.
I got a strike.
What does that mean? I can do that. I can get a strike.
All right.
Can you get like 7 of them?
At my best, I've gotten 7 strikes in a row.
Wow. All right. And it wasn't one of those lanes where they had the bumpers on
Please,
the
don't
gutters?
insult me like that. I did choke that game. I started the game with 7 straight strikes.
Right.
Let's talk about the show, please.
You don't want to. You want to just talk about bowling?
I would
on the
love to
podcast
talk about
today?
bowling, but I don't know.
Right.
People might be tuning out.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, if you want to bowl against Bernie and you live in the Los Angeles area, why don't you email us at bestdampodcast@yahoo.com? Will you bowl one of our listeners?
Sure. Why not?
All right.
I like bowling.
All right. So there you go. If you want to bowl with Bernie somewhere in Santa Monica at an undisclosed location,
Let's do it.
send us an email. bestdampodcast@yahoo.com. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Bowling.
So, yeah, let's talk about the week that was. Like I said, we had some Olympians on, Jason Lesak and Heather Mitz. It's cool because they bring their medals. I don't know, how many people have actually gotten their hands on a gold medal. But it's a pretty cool feeling. It's a little heavier than I think you think it's going to be.
What did you think about the aesthetics of the medal? I
liked it.
Really? I didn't like it. I thought the ribbon looked kind of cheap. I thought the medal itself didn't look as flashy as previous years.
Well, you know what? I give you the ribbon because the ribbon just looked like you could have bought it at
right.
Joanne
Fabrics.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But the medal itself, I thought was pretty cool.
I like the what do you call it? The chiseling. How do you say that?
I guess chiseling.
Chiseling.
Yeah,
that looked nice. It looked good craftsmanship. But
see, here's my question. Lesak, he came with 3 medals. He had 2 golds, and then he had a bronze medal from an individual event that he was in. You know what? It's so easy for me to say this because obviously I'm not an athlete. I did not compete in the Olympics, but bronze medal. I don't know that I'd be carrying around my bronze medal.
To be third best in the world at something, that's pretty good. Third best in the world. I'd like to be 56th best in the world at something.
Yeah, okay.
156, 273rd.
Let me ask you a question. If I competed in every single Olympic event, every single one, would I medal in any of them? Me, the way I am right now, I'm not a terrific athlete. I can do some things. I can run kind of fast, not very fast.
No training?
No training. If I
Zero. You will finish dead last in every competition.
Dead last?
Dead last. Even if you competed against the women in any sport.
I disagree. How about events where maybe it's the hurdles and somebody trips and falls? I beat them. I don't finish last.
I don't know.
I wouldn't medal, though.
Lolo Jones, she fell, and she still didn't finish in last.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think you would finish dead last in every competition. And you would finish did not qualify because you would be too afraid to jump off the high jump.
Let me ask you this.
The diving.
Okay. That's you know what, you're right about that. You'd have to get up there and actually give me a push off. Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. That's like 3 stories up.
That's pretty high. I wouldn't do it either.
I can't really swim either.
I wouldn't do it either.
No, that's pretty tough. But wait, here's my next question. I promise we'll get back to the show. If I was on Team USA, if I'm on the basketball team, let's say they had to play me for the entire game, so they can put 4 guys, whoever they want out there, but Jason Cahill needs to be the 5th.
Okay.
Do we medal?
For every game?
For every single game.
No.
We don't medal?
No. I think the American team is very strong, but not that strong.
So it's Cahill, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony.
I don't think so.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I just don't think it would happen.
We need to make this happen. There are many things we need to make happen. This is one of them. I need to play with Team USA. I need to rush behind the Cowboys' offensive line and see if I can gain 1,000 yards.
You need to be the quarterback of the Patriots for a season.
And I need to compete in every single Olympic event.
We can do this.
I think we can do at least one of those.
The power of the podcast.
By the way, if you're listening to the podcast and you think you can make one of those things happen, please send us an email, bestdampodcast@yahoo.com. But anyway, the Olympians come in. It's great. They've got their medals. Heather Mitz was here.
Beautiful.
Bernie, you are a fan of Heather Mitz.
Wow, she's never looked so good. I don't know what happened. She's always been pretty, but
I like Heather Mitz very much. I think she's sweet. She's super nice and super cute. I'd classify her as cute, but there was a lot of people thinking that she was one of the most attractive women we've had on Best Damn, and I don't know that I wouldn't put her in the top 5 or top 10. Is that bad? I know you're a big fan.
Well, I also have heard you say that you thought another Olympian was the most attractive person we'd ever had in studio before.
Who was that?
In 2003, you said that Jenny Finch was the most attractive woman we had ever had in studio.
I don't.
Fact.
Well,
That's a fact.
I don't recall saying that.
You said it.
Well, by the way, if I did say that, I'm sure she was very attractive back in 2003.
I would say that Heather Mitz is at least in the top 5 athletes we've had.
Oh, that's different. No,
Okay, all right.
That's different.
All right, then I'll go with...
It's a different category entirely.
I'd have to think of our roster of women that we've had on the show.
Okay.
Hopefully, 15 maybe? Top 15?
Wow.
Maybe?
All right. Well,
I don't know.
it's good. No, hey.
She looked great.
I agree.
She's a gold medal. She's a winner.
Heather Mitch, she's great. Joel McHale was here from The Soup.
Very funny show.
Very funny on the show. And Jerry O'Connell was here.
Oh, yeah. Big fan now. He's wearing a Ray Lewis jersey. Can you believe that?
Yeah, you know, I asked him, I said, is that something that we gave you, or did you come in with that? And he said, no, I came in with it, which is weird because, you know, he's a Giants fan. He grew up in New York, and he's a Giants fan, and he came wearing a Ray Lewis jersey, which is cool. I mean, look, the guy's a big football fan. He said he had 8 fantasy football teams, which is just insane.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how you would be able to swing 8 fantasy football teams. You would figure that on every Sunday you're either rooting or against the same player in multiple instances.
Yeah, and he's also married to Rebecca Romaine. How does that happen?
Right.
How does someone with 8 fantasy teams get a supermodel?
You know what I love is that when you're having a conversation with him, he always refers to, oh, my wife, and you keep thinking to yourself, man, your wife, that's Rebecca Romaine.
Right. I don't understand. It was the fat kid from Stand By Me. And now he's
made good.
He's done great.
He's made good, and he's a pretty cool guy too. And of course, wrestler Ric Flair was in the studio.
Woo! I'm a big Ric Flair guy. You a big Ric Flair guy?
I like Ric. Yeah.
I think he's maybe the top 2 wrestlers of all time.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Top 2?
I would say that. Sure.
Huh? I think last week I was putting him in the top 5. Yeah, top 5, top 10 for sure. I don't know about the top 2. That's saying a lot.
He's one of the greatest performers of all time.
Yes, absolutely. He kind of started the the whole flamboyant, bigger than life persona that wrestlers now all have. You know, he was kind of like a Muhammad Ali in that sense, just bigger than life, trash talking in the ring, always coming in with these great outfits.
Funny. He was funny. He's a funny guy in the ring.
And he was a good wrestler too, which people forget. How about what he said about Hulk Hogan during that segment? Hulk Hogan was not a great wrestler. He was a great entertainer.
I agree with that. He had, if you think about it, for all you wrestling fans, he only really had one move, and it was to just jump on somebody with his leg. He didn't have a lot of moves, you know? He was just a showman. He was a showman.
All right, but, I mean, Ric Flair had his signature, leg lock, and he got that from, about 3 guys before him.
Yeah, well, he did the whole poking in the eye, does all the dirty tricks.
Listen, I'm not saying that Hulk Hogan was a great wrestler, and he was a great entertainer, like Ric Flair said, but let's give him a little bit more credit.
Well, I mean, when I said top 2, I was putting Hulk Hogan at number 1.
Were you really?
Maybe, yeah.
Wow.
I think so. I also like Shawn Michaels a lot. Is that weird?
Weird? No. I mean, I wouldn't put him anywhere near the top 3.
Okay. Well, what's your top 3?
I was a big Ricky the Dragon Steamboat fan.
I love him.
So he was my favorite when I was growing up, watching that on like Saturday mornings, and then Saturday night when it replaced Saturday Night Live.
He's great.
And I love Junkyard Dog.
Oh, come on.
I love Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh, come on.
Ravishing Rick Rude.
You've lost your credit. Okay, Rude was great.
But honestly, getting back to who the best wrestler was, Mr. Perfect.
Oh.
Mr. Perfect, one of the best wrestlers of all time, but for me, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And by the way, I know last week on the podcast we said we would get to who would play, if you had to round out an NFL team with only professional wrestlers, who would play at each position. We'll get to that next week.
Okay.
We have Candace Michelle on next week.
Babe.
Maybe we'll have her on the podcast. Maybe she can help us out with that. And there's a buddy of mine that I really want to call in because he's a real huge wrestling fan, and he could really answer that question. So we'll get to that next week. How about that?
Sounds good.
Bernie, do you want to get to what's been bothering you for the length of the podcast? Well, you've been good at kind of hiding it so far, but I look over and there's a look of anger on your face that you really it's tough for you to hide. I know.
I'll say this: we had our auction last night for fantasy football. Each year you put out, Jason Cahill puts out the preseason or the season preview.
Yeah, the power rankings.
The power rankings.
I look at everybody's team. I assess them. I say who the best value was, who the most overpriced player was, and then I give a grade.
Yeah,
a letter grade.
That's fine.
Right. Always meant to spark trash talk.
Sure.
Right.
I'll say this.
By no means an exact science.
No, not at all. Last year I had Tony Romo, and you trashed him. You said he was terrible.
You paid $13 for Tony Romo, and I don't know that I said he was terrible. I said you overpaid for him though, and I was wrong.
Ended up being incorrect.
I'm probably going to be wrong more often than I am right.
Fair enough. Let me say this. I applaud the fact that you do it. I enjoy reading it.
Thank you.
It's one of my favorite parts of the year.
And by the way, for those fantasy football fans listening, if you're still in a draft, you really need to hop on board the auction.
Way better.
It's so much better. It's so much more fun. I mean, provided you can get all the guys in your league in one room, but I can't tell you how much better it is than a draft. Plus, you go in there, it's the most equitable way of doing things because you really have a chance at coming out with any player you want.
If you're so locked into your draft position, like if you get anything after pick 1, you're not going to get LT.
Yeah.
In the auction format,
exactly.
You can get whoever you want. You're not locked in.
So anyway, I sent out the power rankings, and Bernie, I gave you a C+.
I don't know how a team with T.O., Torrey Holt, Brian Westbrook, Ryan Grant, and McNabb can have a C+. But let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
I got a C+, and if you do the ranking of grades, what's one below C+?
That's a C.
Okay, and there was a team that ended up spending money for Tom Brady
we'll get to that.
And Peyton Manning that got a C. And he spent, I would say, about 40% of his money on 2 quarterbacks.
Why graded you better than him?
1/2 level.
That's still better.
1/3 of a level.
It's still better. Well, listen, I only gave, it's a 10-team league. I only gave one person anything resembling an A. I gave somebody an A-. Nobody else got even close to that, and you got a C+.
Well,
listen, here's my assessment of your team.
Okay.
T.O., fantastic. Torrey Holt, great, and you got him on the cheap.
I got him on the cheap.
I mean, you got him for $16, which, we have a $200 salary cap. That's pretty cheap. So, great. You have 2 great wide receivers. Brian Westbrook, again, great. And for our format, we're in a points per reception league. He's going to be huge for you. But after that, I'm not sold on Ryan Grant. I mean, sure, he ended the season great last year, but, his quarterback was Brett Favre, and that offense was really moving. How do you know how this offense is going to perform with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback? How do you know that they're not going to, have 8 and 9 guy fronts just to stop Ryan Grant from running the ball, let Aaron Rodgers beat you?
All right.
You don't know that.
I don't.
By the way,
I think Aaron Rodgers is great.
I can just feel it. Here's a guy who wanted a new contract. He was holding out. Finally gets his new deal. Can't you see him going down in week 2?
Maybe.
I don't want to wish injury on anybody.
Maybe.
But I feel.
I mean, things like that happen. People,
All right, but anyway, so Ryan Grant, let's say, he's pretty good. He's not great, but he's your number 2 running back.
Yep.
You got to start somebody else. So that means you're going to start. Slayton on the Houston Texans or Derek Mason, who I know you love because you're a Ravens fan, but you're gonna have to start Derek Mason every week.
Can we think about this objectively? We get points per reception.
We do.
If you look at Derek Mason, who I got for $1,
I know, $1,
compared to Wes Welker, who went for $21.
Right.
On the season last year, Welker had 10 more receptions, maybe.
Yep.
He had maybe 100 yards more and 3 more touchdowns.
Okay.
And how is that? Now, how is Mason so much worse than Welker?
Here's why. First of all, you want to just compare those two, or?
I know, whatever. He had 100 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
Welker plays in one of the most dynamic offenses ever assembled on a football field, by the way. So, I mean, immediately I would take Welker over Mason in a heartbeat. But, okay, you got him for
I also
$1.
got him for 20 times less.
Who is throwing Derek Mason the football?
Doesn't matter. Joe Flacco?
Doesn't matter.
Sure. Doesn't matter.
Well, of course it matters.
The guy has averaged 80 catches every year. Steve McNair, Kyle Bowler, who cares?
Okay, Steve McNair, better than Falco.
Flacco, please.
No, Falco, the guy who sang Amadeus. sang Rock Me Amadeus. That's your quarterback.
Shane Falco from The Replacements. No. Don't worry. Look, if you're listening out there, don't worry about Mason. The guy just gets open.
There isn't a person listening to our podcast that's going to go out and draft or bid on Derek Mason.
For $1.
Well, okay, for $1.
I got him for $1.
Right, but the point is you have to insert him into your starting lineup.
Fair enough.
So,
and I'll put him in there happily.
That's
right now,
that's why I gave you a C+. And by the way, your team, albeit good in some regards, you have no depth to your team. Deuce McAllister might start for you one day. Ray Rice, you paid $6 for.
Yeah, wait, first of all, I only paid $6 for him because I had $6 left.
Right.
I would have paid $1 for him. Anyway, here's my point. I have in the projections that we have, I am the highest scoring team in the league next week. Mm-hmm. I'm going to roll this league. And you're going to be eating your words, sir. I'm going to have this preview put on my bulletin board, and you're going to be eating your words.
I hope I'm wrong because, Bernie, the league is always better when you are involved in December.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I finished second last year.
Yes, you did.
And if not for a late week Roddy White pickup, I would have won.
Yeah.
Unbelievable that Roddy White beat me in the final week, and he wasn't even on a team before that Sunday.
That is that's troubling right there. It was troubling
sad
to many people in the league. By the way, one more thing, and then we'll get off fantasy football. But Bernie mentioned it. There was somebody in our league who bid on Tom Brady, purchased Tom Brady, had him for $44, and then maybe about 5 minutes later was in the process of bidding on Peyton Manning. The bidding got up to $35, and somebody at the table called attention to the fact that, well, wait a second, if we all stop bidding on Peyton Manning, we're going to leave this guy with two quarterbacks, only one of whom can play, and now he's spent almost half his budget. And some people were saying that that was unethical.
I believe it was unethical. It's collusion, but we didn't really have the ground rules set up that you couldn't collude.
I don't. Well, first of all, I don't think it was collusion. When I hear the word collusion, I think of like the backdoor shenanigans. This was out in the open. People were shouting out, "Don't bid on this guy."
Yeah, but I equate it to like a poker table. If there's three people in a hand,
completely different.
One person goes all in, and it's up to the next person, and he looks to the other guy, and if the other guy says, "I'm going to call or fold," that's going to affect the person who's it's up on.
Let me ask you something. In the draft or the auction last night, were there people who were bidding up players, talking about how good they were, just so the price would go up?
Yes, but that's different. That's
table talk.
Right.
They're being very disingenuous because they don't mean it.
That's the equivalent to me of a person saying, "Oh, I got a monster hand," you know.
Well, but that's
it's different than saying
you could consider that unethical.
You shouldn't. There's a good rule at a card table where you're supposed to say people not in a hand shouldn't affect the hand, and that is affecting the hand.
All right, well,
that's what that was.
Agree to disagree. I thought it was one of the best moments of the auction last night, and the fact that he was even in the bidding in the first place for Peyton Manning
was ridiculous.
$35
that was a
when
big
he already
mistake.
had Tom Brady it's insane.
It was pretty ridiculous.
It was pretty ridiculous.
I'm not going to defend his action of bidding on him, but I did think there was. When another guy on our team or at the table shouts out, "Nobody bid on him," and he's going to be screwed.
It's good strategy.
Okay.
Hey, every man for himself in a fantasy auction, Bernie. All right, listen, we have a great show on Best Damn next week. It's almost like it's ladies' week on Best Damn next week. We have
babes.
We have Brooke Burns.
Babe.
We have Kendra Wilkinson from
Babe.
Girls Next Door, and of course WWE diva Candice Michelle.
Babe.
So it promises to be a good week.
Hot.
Bernie, let's try and get one of those ladies on the podcast next week. Can we do that?
Yeah.
This is our first week without a guest, and I think it was pretty good. Although I'm sure there were people on the treadmill who fell asleep. And
I agree. Yeah, they probably fell off.
I think we had a little inside baseball, as they say.
Yeah, a little bit. But we can get one of those on. Sure. Brooke Burns, she's great. She's done stuff for us before.
She has. Yeah, she's almost like a friend of the show.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So anyway, we have a good week on Best Damn next week, and hopefully we'll be back with huge guests next week on the podcast. We'll answer that wrestling question and lots more good stuff. So again, if you want to email us, it's bestdampodcast@yahoo.com. Until then, I'm Jason.
And I'm Bernie.
And we will see you next time.